I was gonna start this video stating who here is old enough to remember Baldies. But then I realized anyone watching this video more than likely is obviously old enough because you specifically searched Baldies for a reason. I can't see the algorithm pushing this rather obscure title out to the masses, especially in the year 2025. But for the small percentage that may be unfamiliar, or for those that need their memory jogged, well, you've come to the right place. Baldies is a 1990s real-time strategy game developed by Creative Edge Software that I would love to see remastered or remade today. The game was originally published and released for the Atari Jaguar CD and later down the line ported to PC, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and Macintosh. My experience with Baldies was on the PC, and trying to understand some of the nuances tied to the core of the game was definitely challenging. I initially struggled trying to understand the game and how to build strategy efficiently without a manual or a real idea of what this game was all about. So, what is Baldies about exactly? Well, imagine a crossbreed of SimCity, The Sims, and From Dust. You, as the player, are more or less playing the hand of God, where you are doing your best to manage your community, your world of Baldies as you put them to work to create a functional and thriving community. Build, cultivate, breed, manufacture weapons to defend your community of Baldies from the savage invaders called Harrys that come to destroy everything you worked for and worked on. The player does not control a Baldy like he would other games where they take direct control of a character in different perspectives, such as a platformer like Mario or a first-person shooter like Halo. It's something closer to The Sims as opposed to your typical action or adventure or platformer that we're used to seeing. The Baldies operate on AI, kind of having a mind of their own, and will wander around the map until the player chooses to interact with them and give them more direction. Let me tell you, I can't explain the simple satisfaction of picking up a Baldy and watching them squirm around. Like many community strategy games that would come after this title, there are several classes of Baldies that specialize in specific jobs. 4 different classes to be specific that are color coordinated in their specific role. Red Baldies are workers, and they generate energy and provide terraforming. Blue Baldies are responsible for building infrastructure, homes, barracks, or laboratories. Gray Baldies are your boots on the ground, your soldiers that will protect your community from the Harrys. Last, but certainly not least, are the white Baldies. These are your scientists. They are responsible for making weapons, traps, and inventions. Fun fact, Baldies also offered LAN multiplayer on PC specifically. Baldies had fairly huge maps with various locations where you would essentially scroll around to get to your desired location of work or observation. With that being said, as you have already noticed by now, the game was primarily played from a top-down perspective. During the time, the game offered much freedom to players in a charming, simplistic, graphical style. As I mentioned earlier, especially with no guidance, navigating the fundamentals of the game and the learning curve was rather steep, and I felt understanding and learning was largely based on trial and error. I would say the curve was steep enough for someone that may have been turned off from the game for other reasons to not want to continue to play the game in the future with the hopes of it possibly getting better. Now, the goal of the game is to complete 100 levels that get progressively more difficult, and the game is over once all of your Baldies are killed at the hands of the Harrys. Or by your own hands, should you choose to maybe drown them. We've all been guilty of drowning some of our own Baldies. The game was therapeutic and frustrating all at the same time. Frustrations brimming from the random invasions by Harrys, destroying everything I worked so hard for while frantically trying to navigate the field and put out fires, figuratively speaking. But still, I felt it was the perfect balance. Edge Software is a developer that seems to have disappeared into the abyss of developer nothingness, as they have not put out a game since 2002, based on my research. So assuming that the company is no longer in business, I'm guessing there would have to be interest from another dev, and they would have to be able to obtain the rights to the IP to be able to create a remaster, reboot, or a sequel to the franchise. With that being said, there was a sequel to Baldies called Skullcaps that was released in 1998. Again, developed by Edge Software, however, published this time by Ubisoft. I never played the sequel, and honestly, I didn't know it existed prior to me doing some extra research as a part of making this video. Either way, let's bring these badass Baldies back as a reboot or a third installment to a trilogy. I cannot imagine there is a demand for such an obscure title. However, I have seen crazier things happen. So crossing my fingers for the resurgence of the short, stumpy, fat, lovable Baldies. That's a wrap for today's episode. I appreciate each and every one of you for stepping in, showing your love, showing your support, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Now I could sit here and smack you all around with the generic like, comment, subscribe BS, but nobody gives a damn about that. So do whatever the hell you want to do, because you're going to do it anyway. Now, I'm going to give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my property before I pump your guts full of lead. I am Boo, and I am out.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.